I'm Brother Kareem Muhammad with the local organizing committee of Greenville, Mississippi.
And today we just had the situation go on with the garbage contract. What words would you have to say to the people, and what are your thoughts right now?
We first sympathize with those citizens and those workers who are trying to get a fair play and equal work and fair wages for their work and what they're trying to do. However, we have to understand when we're talking about the politics and the politicians that are in this city, who they are being controlled by. And so what are some of the strategies that we have to do where we're not emotional and they still benefit from our anger and our emotion? And that is that those individuals that voted against us, that are not speaking on behalf of our people for the betterment of our people, we have to mobilize ourselves collectively to go in that ward, mobilize our people in that ward, and vote that individuals out and put someone that's going to speak on our behalf, because the only reason why we're standing out here today saying what we're saying because there was not enough votes to vote our way.
Right, right. So you had individuals who claimed they for the people that voted against our interests. How do we combat something like that?
First of all, we have to collectively determine what is our interest. And our interest, it may be today the trash and the wages, but there's got to be an overall, a national agenda interest that everybody, organizations can agree upon. That way, when we go in there collectively, and we have a strategy of a short-term and a long-term plan. And the short term may be just to make sure that we get equal wages for our community. But the long-term goal, there's many, many issues that's facing our community. And if we don't have an agenda, that when we sit down when these politicians are trying to run for election, that we can ask them, are they going to fight for our agenda? Then they'll come in and promise us anything. But if we have an agenda that we all have agreed on, if we vote them in and they do not follow up with our agenda, then we know that we can vote them out. But we must have an agenda.
We must have an agenda.
Yes.
So how do we come about getting this agenda? Because like you were saying earlier, we have all these different organizations and all these different people in our community that spread out. You got some brothers that's into the gang activity. You got some brothers that's into the religious activity. You got some brothers that's into the business activity, capitalist activity. And all of these people have their own viewpoints and their own view and their own philosophy. Exactly. Thank you. Their own philosophy about the world and what's going on, and it don't always collide. So how do we get a united agenda when you have those type of separations?
I'm glad you asked that question. Once again, as I started, I introduced myself and I introduced the organization that I affiliate myself with. I am also a part of the Nation of Islam, but I sit at the table of the local organizing committee. The LOC, Local Organizing Committee, is not an organization, but it is a conglomerate of organizations, progressive organizations, religious institutions, entrepreneur, and grassroots organizations working collectively together up under an agenda called the National Agenda. The National Agenda was a formulation that came out of the Million Man March in 1995 that many people are not even understanding. But there is a progressive organization throughout this country that is pushing the National Agenda. We must go back to that and begin to examine that National Agenda and see how do it fit in our area. It is an agenda that talk on a national level, but it also have local implications as well, and we must come together with those progressive organizations. The NAACP progressive members inside the NAACP. We must come together with the Nation of Islam to progressive members inside the Nation of Islam. We must come together with the National Association for Colored Women. We must come together with other organizations, the AME churches, that have progressive thinkers inside and sit down together, and we formulate our missions that are based on all of our organizations and look at that national agenda and then come up with a strategy that fits us and we move collectively. That's what other organizations do, such as Catholic Dynasty, such as the First Baptist churches. They come collectively, speaking one voice, one resources, one plan of action.
Last question. You just got finished talking about how the funds are not there in our community. How do we get those type of how do we get people motivated when we can't pay them?
I love that. And again, I always believe in that we don't have to reinvent no wheel. That our pioneers who we standing on the shoulders of for freedom, justice, and equality have showed us the way. What we have not done, and that's why they don't want us to do what they call critical race theory. They don't want us to learn the history of our pioneers. For our pioneers showed us that. Mississippi is the prime example. When we look at what happened in Rolling Fork and what's happening around the country, regardless to these tornadoes, our pioneers here in the 1880s, they had a disaster, but the disaster was the Ku Klux Klan and others that came in and terrorized our people. When we built this church, they tore them down. They burnt them down. When we built schools, they burnt them down. But our pioneers came together and got their nickels and dimes, and they poured their resources. They didn't wait on the government to do it, because part of those Ku Klux Klan that burnt their churches down was the governor. Part of the Ku Klux Klan that burnt their houses down was the sheriff. So they didn't rely on the governor. They relied on the president. They relied on their brothers and sisters to pull their nickels and dimes together. So that's what we must be willing to do. Pull our nickels and dimes together. So the local organizing committee philosophy is SOS, solving our own self, saving our own situation. And so when we do that, we say reach one, teach one. We pull our nickels and dimes together. We begin to start buying our own, using our own resources, buying our own laundry detergent, buying our own toilet paper. If we want to stop these people, quit giving their money to Walmart, those individuals that support those issues, and start pulling our resources together, and then we can start doing something, and we can create jobs for our own people. We got the money, it's in our pockets, but we're using it and giving it back to our same open enemy.
So basically, in simple words,
do something for yourself.
Elijah said, do for self.
Yes, sir. And it's working. We're not talking about a philosophy that we got to try to see if it's working, a philosophy that may work. But when you look at the Nation of Islam as a prime example, which is one of the oldest black independent organizations in this country, over 90 years, we have our own school system. We don't ask nobody. We have our own education system. We have our own government. We don't ask nobody when we want to have a convention or something. We don't ask them, can we have a day off on the job? Entrepreneurs, we have the largest entrepreneurs in this country as far as organizations within the Nation of Islam. So we have it, and we are asking the community to review our model as what we're doing. We're not talking about a religion, we're talking about a way of life.
Man, Brother Kareem, powerful, powerful, powerful. Thank you so much for having me, for getting on my camera. Is there any last words that you would like to leave with the people?
Organize, organize, organize.
All
Thank
right.
you.